New this morning, we have the results of the latest Franklin and Marshall College poll, which were released just this morning. So we're getting a look at these numbers. Political analyst Burwood Yost from Franklin and Marshall College joining us live to break down these results. You helped engineer this poll, so you're just the person to talk to about these numbers. And we're seeing some significant changes in these responses, which is not too typical just in a matter of months, how quickly sentiment has changed. Let's talk about the economy. That was the top issue that voters said they're facing right now. And when it comes to if you think that your family is financially doing better or worse than you were a year ago, you see here better off only 14%, worse off 47%. These numbers changed even a bit since you asked this question in March, with more people saying they're worse off.
Yeah, this is a key indicator that we track year after year. And it also tells us, it often tells us how satisfied people are with the incumbent administration and how people are, certainly how they're feeling about their finances. It's a key indicator. It has moved a lot, and largely because I think of responses to inflation. People also tell us that the economy is the biggest problem confronting them today. Rising prices, housing prices, gas prices, all of that factors in. And this is often a partisan question, Matt, meaning that Republicans feel better than Democrats when a Republican is holding the White House. But we've even seen slippage among Republicans who are now more likely to say they're worse off financially than better off. That wasn't true in March in our last poll.
And these numbers are roughly where they were right before the presidential election in 2024.
That's correct.
So we're kind of right back to that feeling.
We are. And I mean, that sort of reflects the stasis we're in. I mean, everyone's looking for solutions. Most people feel that our government isn't delivering those solutions. And this is an example of that.
And no doubt these numbers are dragging President Trump's approval in Pennsylvania.
Sure.
And this was the issue that got him to win Pennsylvania, according to most polls in that election. So let's take a look at where we are here. The majority of voters in this poll, 71%, think he's doing a fair or poor job. His numbers on the economy and inflation are even lower.
Yeah, they've all dropped significantly. We don't usually see the kind of movement this quickly in these kinds of indicators. Normally there's a slow trend over time. We've had a lot of change here. It's largely because of what happened in Iran and the consequences of that, particularly around the economy. The problem for the president here is that when your numbers are this low, you're starting to lose your own supporters. So in our March poll, when his numbers were about 10 points higher, it was about 80% of Republicans said he was doing an excellent or good job. Now it's 60%. So he's not just losing support broadly, he's also seeing some erosion within his own base.
And we're seeing the extremes change too. That excellent number, which would be his most fervent supporters, that excellent number came down just since March, and the poor number, which is the lowest, went up.
Yeah. Well, and he's been a polarizing figure since the start, but even more so now.
Sure. So that's how President Trump is being affected by the economy. Let's look at Governor Shapiro's view here, because it is much different. It doesn't appear that the economy is dragging Shapiro's approval at all. It's split 48%, and this is roughly where he's been his entire time in office.
Yeah, his numbers are really solid. He's as popular a second term or first term incumbent as we've had in this state. You know, he doesn't get the blame for what's happening in the economy. When we ask people about the economy and that being the biggest problem and who can fix it, people think Democrats can fix it. They think it's their turn now. And so none of this negative, and there's a lot of negative sentiment in this poll, none of that really carries over to the governor.
And he'll be on the ballot in November. We can look again at, this is the new results in our next slide here, showing you the head-to-head. If the election were held today, who people would support in Pennsylvania. 50% right now for Shapiro, 28% for Garrity, his Republican challenger. Garrity's numbers have not changed at all since March. Shapiro's actually went up a little bit.
A little bit. This number to me, and this race to me, really hasn't gotten started yet. These numbers have stayed pretty consistent since we started asking about it. But if Stacey Garrity is going to have a chance, she's going to have to start changing these numbers. I think that starts with becoming better known so that more Pennsylvania voters actually know who she is and what she stands for. But he's in a really good position, in part because his party isn't in control of the White House. That's often a benefit for governors. And also many of the structural things that we've seen in this poll, including concerns about the economy, et cetera, that many Republicans are going to have to deal with because President Trump's in power.
Sure. One non-political question to show you from the poll. This was interesting because this is being discussed in the state capitol right now when it comes to cell phone use in schools. The question was asked, should students have access to their phones while they're in school, or should schools be able to limit that access to phones? Look at that. You rarely see an issue where 89% of people agree on it, and they want schools to be able to limit phone use.
As you can see, it's hugely popular. I don't know how often we get things with 90% support, but most people think this is a good idea.
And we'll see. It's being discussed at the state capitol. You know, maybe it's tied to the state budget. We're not sure, but overwhelming support from voters in Pennsylvania.
Actually, that's an important point. We asked a number of issue questions in the poll. There's a lot more support on certain issues than you would think. We often talk about all the divisiveness in our politics. We've got evidence that there's a lot of things that many people support. This is one of them.
Okay, and you can see the rest. We have the full poll results on our website, wgal.com, so you can really get into it to see how sentiment has changed in the state, and a lot of interesting tidbits in there.